Uncuckables.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Tuesday edition of the Uncuckables. And in case you haven't realised, we have the ability now to schedule Uncuckable shows on YouTube, which means we can share the link on Advanced, and we've now moved to Zoom for every show now, which allows a better display than Skype and doesn't have that annoying ring. I'm Tim Wilms, editor and chief of The Unshackled, here in Melbourne. And who else have I got here? Who's below me?
Oh, you mean on the thing?
Yeah, you can see it, can't you?
Yeah, I can. I like having my name there too. We'll have to think of some funny names for me. It's nice to be here, Tim. Nice to be here on a Tuesday. Welcome to our... is this your first time here, Thomas?
Yes, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, welcome. Nice to have you on board.
Thank you.
And we've got our Tuesday regular Reg Penney from Channel Reg and
guys.
New South Wales
G'day,
Patriots
Reg.
against the extreme left. Can I get another update? Is the page now Telegram exclusive, or is it still on Facebook?
It's still on Facebook.
I haven't
And
seen
it's
it
still
in
on
ages.
Telegram. Yeah. It's probably shadow banned again.
And we're not just on YouTube, we're also on Entropy. So I've put the link in the chat so you can join us over there, ask us a question, send through a super chat, or we always, when I say answer our poll, we just make it up on the spot. What's a good poll for tonight?
Yep.
Anyone got a suggestion?
What's a good poll?
Poll question.
Is the
Reg?
head of the World Health Organization a terrorist?
Yes.
Is who terrorist? He's, because I'm working on an article on him, Tedros, I'll just call him that because his name is, it's, the whole thing is unpronounceable. So I just call him Tedros. It sounds like his name sounds like Tetris.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's not a, well, as they say in the USA, physician or medical doctor, MD. On last night's Wilms Front, I called him an astrophysicist. He's actually a microbiologist, so he does know about viruses and parasites and bacteria.
Parasites, yeah.
Yeah, that seems to be the whole World Health Organization.
Yeah, he knows enough about all that sort of stuff to be able to cover up a cholera epidemic, just because it would make the Ethiopian government look bad. He was involved in the DERG. They're the political organisation responsible for the famine in Ethiopia in the 1980s. He was a member of a terrorist organisation. Afterwards as well, he's good friends with Robert Mugabe. He's dodgy as, and this guy's essentially the chief medical officer of the world.
And his party is not just Marxist Leninist, but it's also a ethno-nationalist party for Ethiopia. So he's a black nationalist.
Right.
What ethnicity is he, sorry?
Ethiopian.
So he's a communist ethno-nationalist.
Yes.
Nelson Mandela.
Okay.
Yeah, and there he is. There he is trying to be like all, like I'm like a serious head of the UN, and people are being racist against me. It's amazing. It's interesting actually when you look at the Wikipedia page of this guy. It credits him with all these improvements to the Ethiopian health system and all just the outcomes, like just all these infection rates went down. Apparently, just the service to Ethiopians went up, but it was unequal. Like he actually favoured one ethnic group in Ethiopia over another. So here he is at the head of the World Health Organization crying racism. Yet he was actually responsible for racist policy when he was in charge of the health system in Ethiopia.
Is it because there's all civil wars going on all the time in Africa? As soon as some end, others start. They're called civil wars, but most of the time they are actually race wars in Africa.
Oh, the Zulu War.
Every war is a race war.
Whose missus is in the kitchen at the moment? We can hear plates and cutlery.
Yeah, Phil, there's an invention called the mat. You see the mat there on the table? It's to quiet the noise instead of putting it on the glass on the table. See the mat right there that's next to you? You see it? Yeah, he is a wife. He is a wife. On the mat.
Not a very good wife because you're always up me for not
I'm always cleaning up. You should be cleaning up if you're the wife, shouldn't you?
I didn't realize we were bags.
Hence why I loaded the question.
Yeah, well,
I'm not.
new White Rose article coming out soon about that.
Well, they had one recently. What was it about? They've branched over into New Zealand because they were trying to hype up the Christchurch massacre anniversary. They all got cancelled because of the coronavirus. And Egg Boy was stuck in New Zealand during that time. And I saw the photos of him at the mosque on his Instagram, and it didn't look like at the mosque they were practicing social distancing there. And there was another photo of him out and about in New Zealand Highlands, and he was embracing the other guy that he was with. That's not social distancing.
Maybe he was his partner.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm sorry, Egg Boy was in New Zealand during the memorial thing?
Yes.
Right? Right. Didn't know that. But so he was at the mosque, but they cancelled the memorial, right?
Or he was before. He was at the. It must have been before Jacinta Ardern banned gatherings at places of worship.
Okay.
Because on the Friday, she said the commemorations would go ahead, then they'll cancel the next day, and then she banned foreigners from coming to New Zealand.
Right. Okay. So the Egg Boy was lucky.
Egg Boy was lucky that he got to go to the mosque, but then was stuck there for a while.
Oh, there you go.
Oh.
I haven't followed Egg Boy. Is Egg Boy like social media famous? Is that right?
No, he's a twat. I need to push him.
Yeah.
I need to put him on a helicopter and just have him swim the sharks.
He teamed up with, Magda Szubanski during the bushfires. They were doing a mental health fundraising appeal.
Right. Okay.
Which is, it's good that they're raising money for some charity, but they are now both suffering from relevance deprivation syndrome. Magda Szubanski said that she wanted to apply to leave the Catholic Church.
I also said, did she do some dance?
Oh yeah, she dressed up as Sharon from Kath and Kim.
Yeah, she's just yeah. Well, you know,
I don't know about this.
The good thing about the coronavirus is it's taking mostly fatties, so there's every chance. There's every chance that we won't have to deal with it much longer.
At least we don't have to put up with Extinction Rebellion.
Yeah.
No, they'll have to glue themselves. Hopefully, they've glued themselves to their homes.
Yeah, keep it safe. Keep it safe, keep it clean. That's the way.
There were those 26 refugee protesters in Preston and in Melbourne who were fined by Victoria Police because apparently there's a detention facility there and they fear that there's going to be a coronavirus outbreak there. And they claimed that, we weren't breaching the lockdown or social distancing because we were exercising compassionate care.
Oh, okay. Huh. Well, I don't know. I don't know how you argue against that.
They'll probably, knowing them, these Marxists, they've got access to all this pro bono legal aid, they're probably going to challenge them when the courts reopen.
Okay. Damn. I haven't heard about this. Have you heard about any of this?
Yeah, I've heard about this.
Huh.
You climbed on the roof and stuff.
Wow. The lefties did, yeah?
No, the refugees.
Oh, the refugees, right.
It's quite interesting. This is sort of an interesting formula. Thomas, you hear about me talking about the latest news and you say to Phil, hey, you heard about this?
Well, I think it's a good addition because, I haven't followed a lot of the news. I think Phil has followed it more than me. So Phil is like my alter
Get him
ego.
in as well.
Yeah. Is Phil, is he prepared to show his face? We want to see who this faceless
So
Phil
drop
is.
him off. You don't have to.
Give me a minute to finish eating and I'll come on.
He's eating at the moment.
Yeah.
Put your,
Hey,
put,
so Tom,
put your
Thomas,
face on.
Yeah. So Thomas, Tim may have interviewed you about this sort of stuff before, but I haven't had a chance to listen or anything like that. I understand you're involved in the attempt to reclaim the National Party. Are you able to tell us much about that?
So basically, this was a while back now. This was like a year and a half, 2 years, year and a half ago, maybe. Like it's been a while.
Yeah, nearly
And,
2 years.
Last
I
year,
remember writing about it. Yeah.
last year or two, you know.
Yeah, it's been a while. Basically, Clifford, another guy, invited me along to the Nationals Party. He wanted to put forward more conservative motions than they had in place in the New South Wales Young Nationals. And he said if I wanted to join and help the conservative motions, so I thought, why not? And I looked at the motions he passed, and I basically agreed with them. So I joined, and I said, is this going to work? And people thought it would. That these conservative motions wouldn't end in outrage. I thought they would, and they did. I was also naive. Like I think I went into it too explicit, maybe. I don't know. Like with the social media, like I was pretty explicitly like anti-immigration at the time, and I don't know. That probably helped the witch hunt, which in hindsight probably was not smart. But I was also very naive back then. Like like as you grow up, you understand better the extent of human nature and just how vicious people can be to hold on to positions of power. And I've really learnt that a lot more dealing with politics and how nasty these people can be, especially with regards to inside trading of information with journalists and far left radicals, which was quite clearly done in the case. There was sensitive information spread to these activists and journalists that could have only been gained from the membership lists and stuff like that.
Right. You're talking about being given. Are you saying that the people in the National Party were giving information to far left activists?
I'm not saying 100% legally. I don't want to be fucked over by them. I'm sorry for not to swear, but I don't want to be screwed by them.
This is the Uncuckables. You're allowed to say whatever you want.
Okay. I'm just kind of assuming. I'm just kind of connecting the dots here, I'm not going to say they have, but it was a very fishy situation.
I understand. So, I know exactly what you're talking about. You go into politics with eyes wide open, and you get to see what it's really like. Hey, how's it going there?
Hey, Phil.
Phil, nice to have you on board.
On Entropy, Binary Agenda has asked, is Tom having domestic issues?
Yeah.
Yeah, the police have come a few times because I've bashed around Phil a bit.
Yeah.
He's had to tell work that he's just walked into the door a few times, but there's other things happening.
Yeah, we had the police knocking on our door yesterday, actually.
Yeah. We did.
So, where was it? So, from your involvement in the National Party, what's your take on the political parties now? Then, do you think that it's possible to reform and retake the major political parties? Do you think that we need to form new political parties, or do you think that we need to work outside the democratic system?
It's the $1 million question. I guess every political dissident has their own take on it. I think I've learnt from the past few years that I'm nowhere near as smart and high as mighty as that I thought I was. And, I'm going to tell you, I don't know. It's the $1 million question. I probably think, my hunch at this point is that the mainstream parties are so far gone that we have to really recreate a cultural movement that attracts the good aspects of our youth. And I think we should perhaps concentrate more on recreating the culture and creating new cultural movements and attracting people that way than perhaps political action at the moment, just because the mainstream political parties are so entrenched with foreign donors and left-wing interests and so on, quite clearly. And if a political party is going to happen and come of place that can truly benefit and help Australia and the Australian people, it'll probably have to be a new party. That's my take. But I don't know. Could be.
We've got a question here for Reg. The new tagline is "Let Reg speak." It used to be "Let Dave speak," but Dave, you eventually found your voice, and
got there.
under the desk when we did the in studio shows, you used to give me a wrap around the knuckles when I interrupted your thoughts. So. Which shows just how much you've grown. So Port Film Co-op has said, does Reg happen to know where my hot water system and all the copper piping went? I think he's accusing you of being a thief this week. Because he accused you of being a bike thief last week.
Yeah, I keep telling him how could I sell something which I didn't know what it looks like. If someone steals a bike, it's probably Isaac Butterfield taking it to the tip, and that's about it. Because everyone knows that he doesn't like cyclists and all that. So, yeah. And then I never steal anything at all, or I follow the Ten Commandments. They shall not steal.
We've got our first super chat for the evening. Already a lot of action on Entropy, which is encouraging. Please join us over there. It's from the Versace Cowboy for $3.33. After last week's Uncuckables, I've been buying lots of cappuccinos from Mr. Tuppy. So much, not only do I wet the bed, I'm awake when I do it. Mr. Tuppy, of course, is that cafe in Elwood where locals snitched to the police on it because apparently some customers weren't adhering to social distancing. Apparently, there's been another incident in Elwood this week. I'll just go through this article here. Bring it up on the screen. Elwood Beach paddleboarder warned for breaching state home restrictions. The lone paddleboarder was enjoying a quiet night on the water at Elwood Beach when he was interrupted by water police who issued a warning for breaching the stage 3 restrictions. A witness who wished not to be named revealed that although there were also swimmers in the water, the man who paddled shortly after 5 p.m. was the only person approached by the police boat. He lives in the street close to the beach, so maybe he walked about 200 meters there and carried a paddleboard. He went straight out on his own and he wasn't near anyone. He was the only craft in the water. When he got out to about 400 meters out from the Brighton side, now the marina, a police boat with its lights flashing screamed into the water. The man is understood to be a doctor. This witness knows a lot about this man, where he lives near to the beach and what his profession is.
So I wonder if you could have snitched on him. Do we know anybody who's that vindictive in Elwood?
I don't know. I'm not familiar.
No.
Well, that's Melbourne. I think everyone in Melbourne's vindictive.
Yeah.
Well, definitely there are hotspots of where vindictive people live, but this has been the sort of sad thing about the coronavirus lockdown. The snitches, the busybodies, the nasty neighbours. They've been peering through their windows. Of course, they haven't got the courage to confront anyone to their face. They just call the police.
Yeah, dobbers.
All the people doing this is women. I guarantee it.
Oh, there'd be some men as well, I would suspect.
Yeah.
Some rather estrogenic men, maybe. Yeah.
Must be some toy boy or whatever, dobbing
Yeah.
people in, try to ruin their fun.
Yeah, what they all have in common is that they have no life and they're miserable and don't have any loved ones around them.
Yeah, communists have no souls.
I don't know if you guys have noticed, when you guys go for walks out and about, have you ever seen so many people walking randomly around your neighborhood?
Oh yeah, I've noticed that as well.
Yeah, I've never seen so many people going for like afternoon strolls, evening strolls. An interesting thing though, because I'm like, whenever I see somebody coming down the other end of the road from me, yeah, especially when it's like at night, like I'm always, because of the rules, like I always just make a point of like moving away from people. Now when I walk down the road, women aren't scared of me anymore. It's crazy. They don't have that little fear anymore.
One of the many benefits of the coronavirus, I guess.
Yeah. I miss it though. Like I want to. Sometimes I feel like going, "You are right to fear me."
Well, everyone's after that precious vitamin D now, which is, of course, what you get from sunlight. And winter is coming, so the sun is likely to disappear for large periods of time. But yes, I have noticed, because exercise is one of the reasons you're allowed to leave the house, even though the gyms are shut. So all you can basically do is go for a jog or a brisk walk.
Yeah, I actually went for a run down at the Oval just the other day, and the place was so packed out. Like I wanted to do some sprints, but the place was packed out. I was in the frame of mind that I wanted to call the police and warn about lack of social distancing, just so I could clear the place out and get a clear run. But I didn't do that because I'm not estrogenic. Yeah. So Tim, let's get on to the big issue of the day. George Pell. It looks like communist Victoria will not leave him alone.
I see you combined the two main figures in this legal saga, which is Victorian Police Commissioner Graham Ashton and exonerated Catholic Cardinal George Pell. And you've reported on the XYZ. And Andrew Bolt's exclusive with George Pell aired tonight. It was recorded on Saturday, but aired tonight. I watched it, and Pell definitely seemed like he had much more humility than he has in the past, and you got to see him. He was much more raw emotionally, because I've previously said on the past that he comes across as a very cold, unemotive person, and so therefore it's easier for the ABC and other people to convince the public to hate him. So this is... I've got your article up on the screen here, Dave. Do you want to just go through it?
Yeah, but basically how about we just sort of run chronologically through what's happened, like the last few days. Basically, on the night, on the night that George Pell got acquitted, St. Patrick's Cathedral was vandalised, and we were making the observation: look, the Victorian government would have had a pretty good idea that there were going to be some people who were either angry or wanted to make a political point. And we made the point that they had security cameras and security guards around the memorial for that Eurydice Dixon. And so the guy who vandalized that had to get around that, and like that they caught him because of the cameras. So surely they must have known, and surely there must be some footage. So for this to be able to happen, like, you've got to suspect that maybe it was allowed to happen. And so then yesterday it was reported that the Victorian government is wanting to introduce a bill into Parliament to make it easier for basically to streamline sexual abuse cases. If you bring it up,
complex and confusing explanations about evidence, credibility, and reasonable doubt will be clarified to ensure fair trials and deliver faster verdicts. Sexual assault victims will be better protected under the changes because the trial judge will no longer be required to cast doubt on their reliability.
Yeah, and then the next paragraph was important too, I think.
Yeah, Attorney General Martin Bakula says simpler directions will ultimately reduce the number of appeals and retrials, protecting the victims and their families from further anguish. Who had 2 trials and 2 appeals recently?
Yeah, it's one of the scariest things I've ever heard. Basically, that they're trying to say that the idea of they don't want a judge to cast doubt on the evidence being given. They don't want the jury to take everything into consideration because that's too complex. That's one of the scariest things I've ever heard.
Yeah, because let's not remember what, I'll bring it up on the screen, what Daniel Andrews said after the verdict. You called him a sociopath here.
Yes.
And you also called him, when I saw the headline for this article, or I should say the extract where it said Dickie is Daniel Andrews, I thought it was Maddie's article. I thought he had trademarked that term.
No, Maddie wants to make Dickie is Dan go viral, so I'm doing my best.
He said,
you go.
He says, I make no comment about today's High Court decision, but I have a message for every single victim and survivor of child sex abuse. I believe you, I hear you. No, I see you, I hear you, I believe you. He should have probably put at the end just to hashtag believe all victims.
Yeah, so I called him a sociopath because of that, because this is the sort of thing that sociopaths do. They deliberately say stuff where if they are confronted about it, they can pretend like they meant nothing of it, but it's clearly a threat. It's like this. He's going, okay, I don't agree with the High Court's decision, but I don't want to say anything about it because I'm supposed to be like the leader of a party. I'm supposed to be independent of all that. And then he's using as a pretext the suffering of victims to say, look, we're going to do something about this and we're going to get help. And then sure enough, yesterday, they came out with this plan to introduce the bill. And then today we've had the leak from the Victoria Police that they're looking at charging George Pell again. So basically,
a 27th charge they're attempting.
Yeah. And Andrew Bolt, he made a really good point. He said, look, George Pell had everything stacked against him. It's not like he had the state on his side. It's not like he had the judicial system on his side. But it's just that every single one of these cases was just so ludicrous that it always fell apart. So what it seems like to me is that the Victorian government is just trying to rig the system even more, and they're just going to keep hounding him and hounding him and hounding him.
We've got a super chat on entropy here from
Tim. Let Thomas.
No, it's for Thomas. This super chat.
Oh, is it from Fishburne?
Thomas was actually
shout out Fishburne.
Ask the super chat after.
Yeah, Phil is a JP. What does that mean?
Oh, I know what that means.
What?
He said JP means Jewish pedophile. Yeah, that was actually Fish when he messaged me.
Okay.
What is your last name? Steinberg.
No, I'm not Jewish. It's an inside joke.
Prove it.
Inside job. I thought that super chat was for me.
Oh, it was for your sidekick there. Well, you know the joke as well, I assume.
Me? Yeah. Not really.
Okay.
I don't.
Anyway, I'll let you add your comment now.
No, I was just gonna say, it's a really clever tweet because it's a way of a politician pretending to claim like he's impartial to the decision, and then just following that, pretty much says that it's the wrong decision. The way he worded it was very, very clever. So
he knows what he's doing.
And
he really knows what he's doing, and we know what he's doing because, we called it. We said, no, he's using this as a pretext, and sure enough, in the following days, his actions show that was a threat, basically.
Yeah. So what politicians do best.
Pell's now, or you'd say he's fled. He's sought refuge in New South Wales now. He's living up at a seminary cottage up there. That's where Bolt interviewed him. I think it's fair to describe him as a refugee from Victoria.
I didn't even know he was from Victoria.
Yeah,
Victoria? Okay.
because all this stuff that they're accusing of supposedly happened in Bendigo.
Ballarat.
Oh, Ballarat. Sorry.
Right.
How long before we're allowed to leave Victoria? How long before we're not allowed to leave Victoria?
Well, we're still allowed to go to New South Wales and the ACT. The border is not shut there, but the borders all around in the rest of the states and territories are closed.
Yeah, all of them are like closed up. Even Tasmania closed everyone off the island, so yeah.
Well, they've quarantined the northwest of the state because there was an outbreak at 2 hospitals, and the chief medical officer he was testifying before a New Zealand parliamentary committee, which was of course meeting virtually, and he made the unsubstantiated claim that the outbreak occurred at a dinner party of health workers, and he's backtracked on that because the Premier, Peter Gutwin, said no, that hasn't been confirmed. We're investigating, but that's a pretty. I mean, there's a lot of faith being put in the chief medical officer, and for him to sort of just say that without sort of any investigation that's what happened.
Maybe it is what happened, and he said it, and then people lent on him, so he had to walk it back, and he's lying about walking it back. That's also possible.
Mm.
Because, like, you criticize medical staff in the current climate, and, people are going to say, look, even if it's true, you can't say that.
Mm. Yeah, because they didn't like the Victorian Health Minister, Jenny Mikovits, or however you pronounce it. It's a Greek name, so maybe Pissy Leaks Pete can teach me the proper pronunciation. But
what did she say?
Yeah, she criticised Chris Higgins, that Toorak doctor who was diagnosed with coronavirus after he treated 70 patients, Missy Higgins' father.
Right. Mm. Yeah, so that's where I'm going with this. This is the second time medical staff have been openly criticised by an official, and then they've walked it back. So maybe there's something else going on there.
Yeah. I never got to make the joke about Chris Higgins getting coronavirus. Doesn't that hit too close to home? He's going to be left with a scar. If you're familiar with her music, Missy Higgins, you'll get that joke.
Do you know Chris Higgins?
No.
She's got short hair and she plays the piano.
Oh, is she like a lefty?
Yeah, she is. She's 2 L's, actually.
2 L's?
Yeah.
What? What do you mean?
Well, you said lefty. There's another L, which she is. I said she had short hair.
Oh, lesbian, as Jesse Peterson would say.
Mm. I remember Bob Brown said he turned straight for her when he was asked by Rove.
You turn what?
Straight for her.
Straight for a lesbian?
No, I turned straight for a lesbian. There you go.
Because that was Rove's question at the end of his, I can't remember what format, who would you turn gay for? And when he interviewed Bob Brown, obviously it had to be the opposite.
I haven't even heard the word Rove in a long time.
A show, Saturday Night Rove, got cancelled after 2 episodes.
Huh. Well, I don't know. I don't know about it. Actually, what's interesting is going back with reference to that guy who, what was his name? The African who's a Marxist but also an ethno-nationalist. What was that guy's name?
He's got some big long booga booga name.
What was his name?
The World Health Organization guy.
Yeah.
Tedros, we just refer him to as.
Oh, it's interesting, the combination between Marxism and ethno-nationalism. Like, what would you call that? Like, is that national Bolshevism or something?
Something along those lines. Maybe they could call it Natbol,
Nazbol, maybe.
Nazbol, maybe. Yes.
I've never heard of that before, but maybe like
No,
Nazbol.
I don't think it's ever been
That's
tried.
really interesting, Nazbol.
Mm.
Huh.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Never
What's it
never
weird?
happened.
Well, it's fair to say that the Chinese Communist Party government are also ethno or Nazbol.
Nazbol, yeah. Well, it's interesting the dynamic between Nazbol and what would you say, like libtard left, libtard Marxists? Like, are they? I wonder, like, how much they are in opposition, the Nazbol and the non-Nazbol. Like the left wing in our country, like the academia versus the Maoists and the Stalinists and this African guy. I don't forget his name.
The North Koreans.
North Koreans.
Yeah.
It's an interesting dynamic there.
So what you're saying is they're on the same side, yeah?
I don't know if they're on the same. Like, would the left wing in our country like them or not? I mean, I guess it's a deferring of opinions, isn't it? Like, it's not.
I think the libtards, as per their name, they're useful idiots. I mean, they're not called tards for a reason.
Yeah. True.
Yeah.
Reg,
like during
you
the Cold War.
Yeah.
Yep. Tim?
You run the New South Wales Patriots against the extreme left.
Yep.
How do you see this interaction between the Nazbols and the libtards?
Oh, the libtards, there's a bunch of communists and all, and the nationalists, I mean, the Chinese and the other communists, they're all just a bunch of infights and all. I mean, they're all just have a bit of an infight with each other, Communist China and Antifa and all. So I say they all have been infighting since the Soviet Union and Communist China. So, yeah, it's like mum and dad fighting.
It is like mum and dad fighting. That's a good one. Nazbol will be his dad, I reckon.
Yeah,
I like that.
This has inspired the next poll on entropy. So the outcome of the first poll was everyone clearly thought that WHO leader is a terrorist. The next question is more of I would say more of a conundrum. Which is more toxic, Nazbol soup or bat soup?
Nazbol soup. I wasn't aware that Nazbols had a particular kind of soup.
What?
Yeah, the Nazbols don't have any soup. Yeah. It wasn't the bat soup anyway that did it. It was the lab.
Well, even Andrew Bolt and George Christensen are talking about the lab now. What we all talked about in January, because I know that I've maintained it was either the bat soup or the bioweapon accidental intentional release from the lab. And now everyone's talking about those two possibilities.
Yeah, the definition of fake news is news that hasn't been reported on or acknowledged by the fake news media. Like, we basically get onto it, and then like eventually they sort of go, "Hang on, maybe something's going on here." Because the same thing happened with the those Chinese companies that were using their white forces to strip supermarket shelves of medical supplies and send it to China. We reported on that in January. And the mainstream media reported on it about 6 weeks later.
Yeah, everything we've basically said was either happening or likely the case has turned out to be true. Yeah.
You heard it here first, but apparently we're the fake news.
But it's still going on, this sending supplies to China, but they've gone back to basics. The Chinese with the baby formula, with the biffo.
Back to the formula.
Yeah.
Why are they so obsessed with the formula anyway?
Because they used to have baby formula factories in China, but the baby formula got poisoned, so they don't trust their baby formula there.
Oh yeah, right.
There's one thing that I didn't cover, like. I haven't looked it up, but like, do people get baby formula because they don't breastfeed, or do they get it to like, is it the next thing that you have after you've been breastfeeding? Like, do kids actually need it?
I think
kids don't need baby formula. It's a big conspiracy pushed by big corporations and big viruses.
Thank you.
A lot of it is for working mothers who don't stay home to breastfeed their kids.
As Alex Jones said, babies raised on baby formula don't have proper brains. Alex Jones said it first, folks.
So what you're saying is that if we didn't have feminism, we wouldn't need baby formula, and this wouldn't be an issue.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because that's kind of like like we're getting in here and we'll analyze the racial dynamics of what's going on, but like it's like if I know a couple of weeks ago they were worried that the childcare industry was going to collapse because of the way the funding was, like the
day orphanages, you mean?
Yeah. Yes. Or you could call it the child care imprisonment complex or something. Yeah, there are a number of like more truthful things that you could call it, because of the way that it doesn't matter how it's funded, but the whole point is that if women were at home looking after the kids, we wouldn't need a childcare industry. Like the childcare industry is an industry that shouldn't exist, just like baby formula shouldn't exist.
Well, especially in the current climate, it shouldn't exist because it's harmful to our children, especially with the all of the agendas they're pushing. However, if you went far back enough, maybe like 100 years ago, perhaps some forms of childcare weren't as bad because they instilled traditional customs and beliefs just like the parents would have. But even then, the mother probably, it's better off the mother look after the children.
Even then, the childcare, being away from your parents is what causes the social problems and makes it worse.
Yeah, true.
Yes. Binary Agenda in the chat has said that some women can't produce enough milk naturally, especially Asians who don't have large mammary glands.
Well, Asian women, one of their defining features is smaller breasts.
Not only because they haven't been getting enough protein. Like there have actually been studies that show that Asians' breasts on average are getting bigger because they're getting more meat.
So we need to. So our export of beef and other meat products over to Asia has been helping Asian women evolve.
Apparently,
Binary Agenda has got a few questions here in the chat. Dave, can you please help Tim say "let's not forget that" instead of "let's not remember that"?
Oh, okay. Sure.
Because I get "let's not remember." That's an oxymoron. Let's remember. Yes.
Okay.
It's like when somebody says "irregardless" or "misunderestimated."
Yeah, misunderestimated is my favorite one.
And also has said, was the Pell exoneration from the same High Court judges who ruled that foreign nationals with Aboriginal connections can't be deported? Wasn't the court meant to be stacked with leftist judges? Yes, they did make that decision as well. That was a 4-3 decision. But it shows even with a lefty stacked High Court, that they can still see sense in this case, which shows that Victoria must have super, ultra, mega far left judges.
Yeah, that's it. Well, you don't often get a 7-0 decision, do you? While we're on that, let's just go back to that, Tim, because the pattern that we're seeing here from the Victorian government, what we're seeing here is the state appearing to intervene in the justice system in order to get the results that it wants. And this isn't the first time this has happened in recent memory. Like you've covered the trial of Blair Cottrell quite closely. And it appears to have similar patterns.
The only time that Section 25, Subsection 2 of the Racial and Religious Tolerance Act had been used, it wasn't just Blair was the one who appealed, but he was convicted along with Neil Erickson and Christopher Shortis.
Yes, but there seemed to be some funny manoeuvring. Like there was a change of judge, which seemed a little bit fishy at one stage, and the Victorian government, they're known for sort of restricting access and restricting what people can say about the trials.
Well, it was under entire suppression, the Pell trial. We only learnt about the evidence and the supposed offence after the suppression order had been lifted. And aren't we supposed to have open justice?
Yeah.
Huh.
Apparently.
Until proven guilty.
I remember the first the first widely reported on suppression order was when Judge Betty King, she banned Underbelly miniseries being shown in Victoria because of some gangland trials so it could air on Channel 9 in New South Wales and the rest of the country, but not Victoria. This was 2008.
Yeah. Underbelly's banned in Victoria.
Yeah.
Never seen it.
Underbelly's a good show. Underbelly's a really good show.
I watched Underbelly Razor.
No, I haven't seen
Underbelly Razor was good.
I've only seen season 1 with the Moran, Jason Moran, the guy that he peddled pingers, I think, ecstasy, and the Alfonsi gang.
First one, yeah, I saw that.
Good show.
It was
Good show.
time when yeah.
It's good to watch something. It's good to watch. Like, I love watching crime, but especially like Australian crime is really good because, like, you understand the context a lot more personally than something from America or Europe. So, and like, when you're watching Underbelly, like a lot of the scenes, like you've been there or you know of it very well, and you know the culture. Like, it's just really good.
Well, you can go down Lygon Street in Carlton and you can pretty much say, oh, that's where that Underbelly incident happened. Because the one where Mick Gatto shot Benji Benjamin, which Mick Gatto was acquitted of self-defense, that happened in La Piquetta in Carlton.
In Rushdown Street.
Yeah,
I drive down Rushdown Street regularly. Yeah, it's maybe the suppression order. Maybe that explains why they made an Underbelly series where they sort of went back in time and they sort of did some stories about some crimes from like the colonial era as well.
Yeah, that's what you're talking about, Reg. Razor. That was based in the 20s, the Razor gangs, because they literally had razors.
Winko and Tilly. Yeah, that's when they show the New Guard and all that in that show, and they treat the New Guard as the extreme right wing, but it's actually not. My great grandfather, the guys I'm trying to convert him to it, but he refused because he doesn't support any views of socialism like fascism, communism. He just supports his own country because he had a missus that time, and like she was pregnant with my nan. So yeah.
They had a series focusing on Sydney's King's Cross, the Golden Mile, with that Johnny Ibrahim. He was that Lebanese, was he?
I think so. I think so. My dad used to work around the cross as a pub manager, and he's probably known about a few underground worlds and all that. So yeah, it's all connected and all. So yeah.
I hear that.
Sorry, what was the New Guard in the 20s?
You never heard of the New Guard?
What was that? The 30s.
Yeah. You know the guy who just dropped the rumor about with the sword and all. It was when the opening of the Sydney Harbour Bridge. Some guy was riding on this horse, and then he was like, "For Queen and Country," and then
I've heard about that. Yeah, but is the New Guard were they like a nationalist group?
It's like a national, more loyal to the Queen and Governor General.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. When Jack Lang was dismissed, the membership has dropped. So it was a time when there was like communists, fascists, all the water, electricity, socialism thing and all, and then communists. It's just all barging each other. The other guys is like, nah.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
I think the next series of Underbelly will be about the pizzas in Sydney, because remember police broke up those guys eating pizza in their car for breaching social distancing.
Oh, I did hear
Well,
about
they got
this.
something from that pizza.
Haven't you heard of this, Reg?
What?
That happened in Sydney. I haven't. I'll bring up the article here.
Yep.
Yeah, because this is a doozy here. A tense tussle erupted over the weekend when a dozen police officers swarmed on four men breaching social distancing rules by eating pizza together in a car. Officers arrived at Edgar Street in Condell Park in Sydney's west. Do you know that area?
Where?
Condell Park.
Yes.
I don't know.
West Sydney.
Yeah, I know that place. Yeah.
They issued two men, both from Milpira. Is that nearby?
Milpera.
I don't think so.
Not really very close.
With penalty infringement notices for failing to comply with public health order. The older of the two men was fined for offensive language, with the other two men issued warnings. The heated confrontation was captured on video and shared to Facebook.
So 4 guys eating pizza at night in cars a long way from home. Does that sound like pizza or something else?
And this is a quote. Look at how much police they've got for a ticket. We're sitting down eating, and the fucking dogs came in for no reason. I hope you all get the coronavirus, especially you. I hope you snap your neck, you little mutt.
Actually, they're not that far away. It's like 2 suburbs apart.
Okay.
So
Maybe it was pizza. Okay.
Yeah. So it's a combination of both underbelly and fat pizza. It sounds like.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, the new episodes of Fat Pizza will write themselves.
Yep.
Yeah, they will. So Tim, let's move on to the back to the baby formula. The baby formula biffo.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'll bring that up here. So this was in a big W in Perth. So it's been going on for years. Oh, you got the headline here, baby formula fight. There's been an ugly clash at a Melbourne shopping centre over baby formula. And you highlighted that nobody mentioned race and that these 2 Chinese people had been in repeatedly to buy baby formula, which is this is common that they'll try and sneak back into the store.
Yeah, and look, I've heard about this becoming an issue. But it wasn't until it really got onto it these last few days and had a look at all the video. There are so many videos of Chinese people just lining up, just taking the baby formula off the trolleys before they can even be put on the shelves. So it's a thing, and so it's been well documented by the mainstream media now, but by us and the supposed trusted sources that you've had Chinese people stripping shelves and sending stuff back to China, and so there's concern over so-called panic buying. I don't call it panic buying. I just call it rational decision making. But yeah, there are restrictions. You're only allowed to take so many things of a certain number of so many things, and so the whole point of the confrontation that occurred, it was an Aussie standing up to a foreigner, basically calling out bad behaviour by a foreigner. That's a really, really big deal here in Australia, because you do that here in Australia and you'll get accused of racism, and it's likely that there'll be a social media shitstorm about it. It's likely that you'll get your face on spread all over the newspapers, all over the media, all over the country. You could lose your job. People will attack you. People will send you threats. So to actually stand up to a foreigner in Australia is actually a really big deal. And so the point I'm making, the point I made in the first piece that I wrote about it was, look, things have changed now. We've got the coronavirus going around, so people are worried. They've got far more important things to worry about than virtue signaling and looking good. we're thinking about survival here. And because of the lockdown and the impending depression that's coming along, that's amplified. So all of a sudden, these sorts of things that have, but basically the socialization, the political correct stifling of like just people being able to apply common sense, all of a sudden that's been lifted, and you're actually seeing Aussies sort of getting a bit of fight back. That's my initial impression of the confrontation. What did you guys think of the confrontation? Have you guys seen the footage of it?
Yeah, I saw the footage of it. Nothing really happens though. He goes off at him, and that's about it. There's been way worse cases of this going around. It's good that people are starting to, stand
up, and that's it. They said
I'm kind of surprised that this one in particular is getting so much traction.
Because it was captured on camera.
Yeah, well, there's been other ones, but I think the reason this one got so much traction is because someone actually did something about it, so they will claim racism. Yeah. I've seen videos where they've got a whole team of like 10 people just going in loops through the store and piling this stuff up outside the store, like full trolleys of it.
Yeah, I saw.
But no one really has the guts to go up and talk to them about it.
And not all Asians look the same, and so we do notice that it's the same Asian person going back in to buy more baby formula.
Yeah. There's an established pattern. Yeah.
We've got a question here from James Boom. Are we going to have a state-sponsored coronaphobia campaign in Australia? I know that the usual suspects have been out slamming racism against Asian Australians for the coronavirus, and I talked about it last night.
Little Timmy Shitpossum has written a piece on it. Yeah.
I talked about it last night on my show, but the Nazi flag next to the Chinese Communist flag in Victoria. Have you heard about this?
Yeah, I saw it.
Saw
it in the news.
It's in Kyabram, a rural town there.
Yeah, it was on the 5G tower. It says COVID-19, but on the bottom of the Chinese flag.
And Anti-Defamation Commission Chairman Dr. Devira Bramit described the act as disgusting. It's chilling to think that in Australia in 2020 there are individuals with dangerous hatred in their hearts walking our streets who openly celebrate Hitler's satanic ideology. Anyone who loves this country and its core values will be outraged by this evil and warped act. When he says anyone who loves this country, is he talking about Australia there?
It's a very good question.
If you look at his surname, it really makes you wonder.
Why do they do the Chinese flag and the Nazi flag? Are they saying Chinese and Nazis?
Well, yeah.
Yes, they're comparing Communist China to Nazi Germany, even though Communist China is
much
worse. Way worse. It's killed at least 5 times the amount of people through its existence that Nazi Germany did.
They're also completely different ideologies as well.
Well, look at the media. Look at the media. They're just defending them. They're defending China, but it's not going to last long forever. People are going to wake up and say.
And if you check out the ADC website, they're more outraged about Nazi things than people dying from the coronavirus
or China regime. Yeah.
Well, the Queen and also Angela Merkel both compared the coronavirus to World War II in recent speeches. They talked about how this is the great struggle since World War II. So there is kind of this comparison between implicitly the coronavirus and maybe in Hitler. There seems to be this going on as well. So maybe Hitler's Hitler's virus. Maybe.
You wonder whether
because Hitler's supposed to be the worst thing that's ever happened. Even though the communists killed over between 1 and 200 million people.
And counting.
Yeah, they're still going.
Because there was that intercept from US intelligence that apparently 21 million Chinese have died from the coronavirus, not the 3,000 that the official numbers from the Chinese government, which we know not to trust.
That number is a really interesting number. I want to cycle back to the baby formula in a bit, but that number is really interesting because, like when you read the Epoch Times article which refers to it, and keep in mind as well, like this hasn't been backed up, but they refer to like that drop of 21 million users was for February 2020. For February 2019. There was an increase of 24 million users of mobile phones in China. So I don't know if that's the average. Let's just assume that it's the average. Every month, 24 million new Chinese users of mobile phones come online. So that means that to have a drop of 21 million, you actually need to have 45 million people drop off the radar. So even if the math is way off, it's entirely possible that millions of people died in China from coronavirus and they've covered it up.
I heard about that, but is it not also the case that maybe they could not afford to keep up their phones?
Well, I don't think so, because in China with the social credit score, your phone number is like tied to your ID and your driver's license and every way, your social security number or your Medicaid card, it's all tied in together.
Yeah.
So you have to have a phone.
Be able to pay your bill, but you still have the phone number, and I think it's inactive phone numbers that they were looking at. Also, I think China, as far as I know, China only has the one mobile provider, and it's a state-run company. So I doubt that they don't have only the one.
They've got a few.
Okay.
But they showed figures from the biggest one, and they've had a substantial drop in numbers as well.
But are they state run though? Because I would imagine.
Oh yeah.
From what I understand about China, you basically need a phone to do anything. Like they pay with their phone and everything, and that's how they, have their IDs and their, their identifications through their phone. So I doubt that the Chinese government would just be letting people not pay their phone bill. If they couldn't pay their phone bill, I doubt that they'd be just letting those accounts get deleted.
Yeah, that's the thinking that makes me go, okay, it's actually entirely plausible that millions of Chinese people have died. It'd be, you'd think there'd be an interest by investigative journalists in actually looking into that. It could be the story of the century. It's huge. It's absolutely huge, and it would explain, because people will make the case. Look, so now it's about 120,000 people have died from coronavirus. We shut down the entire economy for that, and then they'll compare the numbers to the people that died from the flu and all the other diseases around the world, and they say, look, either this is a massive overreaction or there's something they're not telling us. And this theory would line up with there's something that they're not telling us theory.
Yeah. The World Health Organization, or should we just say Tedros, has supported China reopening the wet markets, the live animal markets, including where they sell the bats. And that's the latest one where you sort of think, come on, you seriously want us to believe that you're not in China's pocket yet. You're supporting the reopening of the markets where not just the coronavirus, but other new viruses were born.
I think they're quite happy for us to talk about the wet markets and avoid talking about the lab.
Yeah, well, they got to keep China happy because China's making all the testing kits. They're so reliant on China to pump out all this, the face masks and all the equipment that they need. So if the Chinese tell them, hey, we want you to advise that we can reopen the wet markets, then they'll do it.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
We've got another question on entropy from Philip Cunningham. Can you discuss the latest XYZ article on democracy? I haven't read it, but perhaps, Dave, you can please explain.
Fire up, Dave.
What's that?
So fire up.
Oh,
Guys,
basically,
just to let you know, I'm on my phone's 10%, so my phone
sure.
may shut off sometime randomly. Just let me know.
not a problem. It's been a pleasure having you, Thomas.
Yep.
I'll stay on until it runs out.
Beauty. So yeah, the article was basically making the case that democracy doesn't work. It's interesting on XYZ. Like, I've got my take on things, but I understand that like it's a platform for different people to put their views forward. So I allow different things to go up. So we've had some people sort of putting forward the idea that the disruption being caused by the coronavirus, it's a great opportunity for nationalists to make some political headway, by sort of coming together and saying, okay, this is what we believe, this is going to be our party, and just because of like the increased awareness of Australians, just understanding, okay, coronavirus has come here basically because we have multiculturalism and open borders. There's fertile ground for nationalists to actually make some headway. And so then the other train of thought, and this is more along the lines that I think, is that democracy is basically a system which is like rigged from the start to not work, and it's basically rigged from the start to benefit the parasites, and we've got to sort of think outside the square. Like there are other systems of government that we can have, and that's essentially what this article is saying. Like the way that it's designed, it was referring to the idea that like we elect a government to make decisions, and then we elect an opposition to hinder those decisions, and you wouldn't run a business like that. So yeah, it's not actually designed to get anything done.
There's that famous book by Hans Hermann Hoppe, that Austro-libertarian philosopher, Democracy, the God That Failed, and he actually believes that monarchy is preferable because a monarch has a long-term interest in carrying on the family dynasty rule, and so is therefore more inclined to make better long-term decisions.
I like the idea of a monarchy.
Monarchy is awesome.
Port Film Carper's got a question on entropy. Is Reg Penney a modern RoboCop?
Yes.
You got to keep those glasses on, otherwise you'll laser beam us with your eyes.
Yeah, they'll love you coming with me.
Because I just need to mention the names Clementine Ford and Sarah Hanson Young, and he'll automatically say pig.
We're all a bunch of pigs and rats.
Yep, there we go.
Reg, are you the RoboCop or more like the Terminator, T200 or something?
T800.
T800.
Yeah.
Did you see the latest Terminator? Was it a Mexican and a lesbian Terminator fight off?
I don't want to watch that. I saw it. I rage quit when John Connor got shot.
The LGBT 3000 versus the there was a great comment on YouTube on the trailer. It was like the LGBT 3000 versus the something Mexican, some Mexican joke. I don't know. It was really good.
Yeah, but at least they bring back Linda Hamilton and back, and I mean,
hasn't she aged?
Yeah, she aged.
Yeah. Did the latest one bomb?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
It sucked.
It's funny that like they make all these new movies, and it's almost like they're not designed to make money. It's almost like they're designed just to push an agenda and keep control.
Well, I mean, they're ignoring the basic laws of marketing. I mean, they're putting these empowered women into otherwise masculine roles for movies that were made for primarily men. That's why they're losing money. Like the new James Bond is going to be replaced by a black woman soon.
Yeah.
How many guys are going to go watch a black woman as the new 007? Like the whole idea, the whole premise of the James Bond franchise is to like appeal to the male fantasy of strength and of the ability to.
He was written as a womanizer, but that was also seen as sort of like the enemy, that they also used that as a way to try and get to him as well. They knew that women were his weakness, and so that's why you had all those Bond girl villains.
It's also interesting that the original novels that the James Bond character were based on, they were written in the early days of the Cold War, and they were a direct. It was almost like it was trying to reclaim the image of the British spy from the homosexual communist British spies who basically gave the communists, the Soviet Union, the nuclear bomb. Because that's how the Soviets got it. They got it from some homosexuals who were the communists who were actually in the British intelligence, and they stole the information and gave it to the Soviets. So it was deliberately written as the antithesis of that, and then now it's like the communists have been able to take it back.
Yeah, but they're going to lose money on it. Like, yeah, they must have money to lose because they're defying the laws of marketing, really.
Yeah, almost like they have some kind of unlimited money and someone's funding them just to push their own agenda. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just a crazy theory.
Well, it's not just Hollywood, it's also the consumer corporations now, with obviously Gillette being the... we almost went through the whole show without mentioning it. The banks are now woke, and they closed... ANZ closed down your bank account, Thomas.
That's right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I got my bank account closed. I remember the day that I got a receipt for the letter, and I went onto their ANZ Facebook page, and their cover photo at the time was, "We'll fund any Mardi Gras project that you have if you apply here." And that just says it all. Like, I mean, I wasn't surprised that they blocked my account. Like, ANZ is a very political bank.
Yeah.
Did you see their Mardi Gras ad?
I actually shut down my account. I shut down my account with ANZ after they went after Israel Folau's wife. For that reason, basically. I'm very glad
I noticed they only started being political after the referendum. They weren't. They're just doing it for brownie points.
So they weren't prepared to stick their neck out.
Well,
oh no, they signed up to the Australian Marriage Equality Corporate Sponsorship Partner Program, or whatever it was called.
Oh, sure, but they weren't, changing all their cover photos to rainbow flags and putting rainbow flags in their stores. It's just.
Did you see their Mardi Gras ad for this year? We played it on this show.
Yeah,
I think I have. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that the one where they say like faggot or something?
Yeah, about carpet muncher.
That was my favorite ad of all time.
Very much is on the carpet.
I know that trailer. That ad was pretty cool, actually.
Advertisements want to kill you. Remember that.
So they must have got because you said ANZ put out an advert will fund any LGBT ad. That must have been because not even like the activists liked it because it had all these triggering words in it.
Yeah.
That's why I loved it, because like my first reaction as soon as I saw it, I'm like, I love this. This is hilarious.
Yeah, it was quite funny.
And so someone like me loves it, and the people that it's supposed to be geared towards hate it. That tells you what they're going down completely the wrong path.
Yeah, they change their ATMs at Oxford Street every year to GATMs.
Yeah, I keep saying that.
Ooh.
Like every time I
go
down Oxford Street on a bus.
The term transaction has a double meaning.
Oh, God.
That's why I got you to change the Trans-Tasman show to Trad Tasman.
Yeah, you were quite triggered by that.
No, I wasn't triggered. I was like, no, Trad sounds much better. So can we go back to the biffo over the baby formula? There's one more aspect to it.
Yeah.
So what I found really interesting was the way that the media covered the story. So I looked at a Channel 7 news report.
Yeah.
And 3 articles which were written about the incident. So there was an article written by Yahoo News, who I think are Channel 7 anyway, by news.com and by Channel 9. And all 4 of those reports handled the incident in exactly the same way. So when describing the actual confrontation between the Australian and the two Chinese people, they did not refer to the race of the people involved. They referred to the shoppers wearing face masks, and the baby formula shoppers. Those two terms are now euphemisms for Asian. They referred to the Australian as the older shopper, or the elderly shopper, or the other shopper. And so two of the written reports did refer to the fact that there were incidences of daigou shoppers who sent goods back to China. One of them said that goods were being sent overseas, and then also the three written reports sort of referred to the fact that people on social media were standing up for the guy who confronted the two shoppers, saying, "Yeah, good on him for standing up and not tolerating this bad behavior." So you've got a pattern here across the stories where, when describing the incident, they don't describe race. When describing the motivations of the guy who confronted them, they don't describe the race. They do acknowledge the fact that stuff has been sent to China. So if you're reading the article, just one article, and you're a normie, you'll probably miss it and be like, "Oh yeah, of course they mentioned China," but they don't talk about the actual reason why.
Well, everyone who reads those articles now know that, or who else is going to be daigou shoppers?
Yes, but yeah, this is the point. The whole reason this occurred is because there's an Australian there who had some racial consciousness and was prepared to actually stand up for Australians against foreigners. And so this is the sort of thing which the mainstream media and the politicians can't allow to become mainstream and can't allow to be normalized. And so that's why you see this pattern across four reports, where they try to neutralize the race of the people involved, and they want to take race. They completely want to take that aspect out of it.
I'm surprised they said they described the genders of they said men and the woman.
They did do some assuming there, yes.
They should have said the people.
People kind.
People,
that's
mankind.
Yeah, I think we've mentioned previously with the coronavirus statistics that the breakdown by gender is only male and female.
It's amazing how quickly all of that went out the window. Huh?
No.
Well, we're getting towards the end of the show. We've got this question from Port Film Cup. Can you tell that young punk that there are only 2 Terminator films? Yes, you're right about that.
Yes.
Port Film Cup.
There's only 2 Terminator films. He's gone. Thomas?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Still there?
Yeah, I think that's it.
All right.
Thanks for coming on tonight, Thomas, and I think the audience very much liked hearing from you, and they also loved Phil as well.
Yeah, I've been enjoying it. We should get them on again, Tim. They're great.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
Now, Reg, you're the NRL nut. Todd Greenberg and Peter V'landys have vowed the NRL is going to come back on May 29. They've given a date, but have got no plan. Have expressed no plans how they're going to.
They're struggling all up at the moment in the Premier of Queensland. She doesn't want to have state of origin, so that's out of the window. So, yeah, I mean, the NRL's just getting all mucked up.
The AFL just seems to be sitting back and saying to themselves, "We'll just see how the NRL deals with this." Because like the AFL, they've got a huge war chest still, so they can afford to sit this out while Greenberg's blowing all of the money on the
political correctness and all that.
War and administration. It's got a bloated bureaucracy, and the head of the free-to-air broadcaster, Channel 9, Hugh Marks, blasted the NRL's because they weren't consulted on the decision to restart the season, and have said, "You've wasted our TV money, Greenberg."
Yeah, well, karma hit him hard. Karma hits the board hard. You know, if you don't listen to your fans, karma hits you hard.
Something my dad said, actually, because I'm loving the fact that the AFL is suffering as well. I hope the big footy codes just fall apart, and we can get back to just playing regular football without having to worry about having a different special person's game each week. But my dad has said this, and I've got to agree. I don't like the idea of football being played on Good Friday. I think they should keep football away from that. They should keep football away from the Thursday as well. Maybe they should just have football on the Saturday, on the Easter weekend. But it's interesting how that's allowed to happen, and then before you know it, there's no football played at all. So we had a Good Friday free. We had a Good Friday with no football, which was glorious.
Yeah.
Would you prefer to just go back to the all games starting at 2 p.m. on a Saturday afternoon?
Yes. My childhood in the 80s was basically it would get to quarter time and it'd make a mad scramble to get all the other scores down in your footy record, and you'd be able to keep track of wherever every team was, and then you'd see all the games on the replay the next day. And you might watch the Sydney Swans play somebody on the Sunday, but that was it.
After they'd moved from South Melbourne.
Yeah. Maybe we could take. I am in favour of just going back to the old VFL. I think it'd be great.
Yeah, VFL take all the AFL teams back to Victoria.
Yeah. Does anybody in Sydney actually care about the AFL, Reg?
No.
Yeah.
Only those inner city soy boys and all that.
Yeah.
There
you go.
They don't allow Bones or anyone that's big on rugby, like footy, in the game.
Well, the Roosters, they used to be at Eastern Suburbs. So
Tri-colours, yeah.
Yeah. The Eastern Suburbs and North Shore doesn't have a team anymore, so that's why they follow the Swans.
Yeah. Well, North Sydney doesn't have North Sydney Bears anymore. They don't have Newtown. They don't have not nearly every foundation team. It just disappeared. The only two foundation teams is Roosters and Souths, and then the other two teams, Balmain and West, became West Tigers. And yeah, I mean, Sydney Roosters and Souths are the only last two foundation teams in the comp.
If you blinked, you would have missed it, but social media is still censoring far-right personalities, because over the Easter long weekend, Steve Bannon's Pandemic War Room Twitter account was suspended, and so was the censored.tv, which hosts Gavin McInnes and Milo's show. Their Twitter account got suspended.
That's interesting.
What? Look at me.
I do find it interesting. The trolls are back. I've noticed an uptick in troll activity because the bread and circuses are over. People are at home. People have time to read. People are naturally going to sites that actually want to talk about the truth. So it's not surprising me that they're starting to bring back the rings of control just to try to keep us in our box, to keep us from going viral and getting the truth out mainstream.
Binary Agenda has asked comments on Trump's critique of the media, because the US politics and media is as toxic as ever. And I commented about this last night on my Wilms Front show, but the media is attacking this hydroxychloroquine drug because Trump suggested it as an anti-malaria drug, because they don't want Trump to be right about this drug. And so they're talking about all the negative side effects, which have already been well established on it. And they'd rather people die from the coronavirus so they can blame Trump than then be saved by this drug that Trump told the public about.
Yeah. Didn't somebody say that Trump could come up with a cure for cancer and they'd attack the cure for cancer?
Yeah, because there might be side effects from curing cancer.
Yeah, that's it. The other thing that they're trying to do, like they're accusing Donald Trump of trying to rewrite history. But it's the media that's been rewriting the history. Like
And
Donald
China.
Trump,
Yeah.
Donald Trump closed the borders to Chinese travel a month before he was advised by the medical establishment.
Well, he was advised by Tedros.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. There you go. And so he was criticized for doing that. It was called a racist move. But yeah, so like he actually did that before the World Health Organization stopped him to do that. Yet they're saying, oh, he mismanaged the situation. No, he was onto it before then.
And he's been having these daily press conferences with the media, and there's combat.
He's been destroying them, yeah.
Yeah, he's absolutely destroying them. Trump's going a really good job. Yeah. Fox News, they're probably a bit up and down with him, but yeah, they just filmed the whole interview and all. While the others just like MSNBC and NN, it lasted 5 minutes and then they just got cut it off.
But there's never any questions asked to Andrew Cuomo or the other Democrat governors, because it seems to be only Democrat states where the pandemic is worst, and in cities run by actual communists like New York with Bill de Blasio. There's no scrutiny of them. It's all on Trump. And speaking of Andrew Cuomo, New York, Fredo has gotten a bit sicker. He's feeling more sick.
Oh, really? Well, yeah. Sorry, Rich.
Yeah, the media just keeps on blaming Trump for everything. I mean, who's to blame? You probably have to blame someone who's handled the states, the governors, the mayors.
Exactly. Well, on the Richardson Post last week, I was talking about this on Thursday. There was an analysis of I can't remember who, like basically the person in charge of health in New York City, and she was focused more on politically correct SJW stuff. She was out there saying no, people should go and celebrate Chinese New Year. They were more concerned about so-called minorities having post-traumatic stress disorder after coming in contact with police officers, and they were basically saying, look, we're not going to arrest so-called minorities for minor infringements, which basically gave them license to do that. So yeah, they've had their head in the sand, and they've had their priorities on non-health related issues, and they just let the coronavirus get completely out of control. It's completely the fault of the people running this, of the Democrats running the state of New York.
And I know that CNN and the other left-wing media, they still inject race politics into it, say that minorities are more affected by the pandemic, even though
they are. It's the fatties and it's the black people. The footage that I've seen, yeah, that's what it is.
But the virus itself is not racist.
Oh no. Yeah, they always try to inject that kind of identity politics into it, but my response is just, well, yeah, it's getting rid of the fatties and it's getting rid of black people. It's people who don't look after their health as well as they should. They're the ones who are copying it, and that's the advice I give with coronavirus. I'm not a doctor, but just don't smoke, work on your lung capacity, and just don't get it as well, because it's the other thing as well. From what I've seen, like, it destroys your lungs, and there's a growing concern that it has a similar effect to AIDS. Like it actually, like coronavirus actually attacks the immune system.
Well, Thomas, we didn't get a chance to talk to him about it. One of his recent YouTube videos was comparing AIDS to coronavirus, both the pandemic phenomena and also how the diseases are similar. And coronavirus, even it does seem like AIDS times 1,000, given that you can catch it just by being less than 1.5 meters from someone else.
Yeah.
Yeah, because with AIDS, you either had to have unorthodox sex with them, consume their blood, reuse needles, or drink a bucket of their saliva.
Yeah. They've managed to weaponize it. Yeah, that's a whole other story.
A few people have asked in the chat, what's happening with XYZ Live at the moment?
Oh, we'll be back. Matty's just getting his internet sorted out. We should be back, and hopefully the picture quality should be improved as well. So we will be back. We'll make an announcement when it happens.
I suggested that there could be some, because he's publicized that Optus is his internet service provider, that maybe someone's complained to Optus, or whether some people at Optus are playing shenanigans.
It's possible. We don't know.
Optus is owned by Singtel, which is a Singaporean-based telecommunications company.
Yep. Cool. So, how are we looking, Tim? Are we ready to wrap things up?
Yeah, I think so now. So it's been a pretty successful Tuesday night show. Obviously, since you're here, Dave, a lot of people didn't like Daveless Tuesdays. Are you going to come back on for Thursday as well?
I'll be here Thursday.
Thursday as well. Great. Because I
appreciate
know
everybody coming in. It is much appreciated. I appreciate the fact that people say they are interested in what I have to say. So thank you.
Dave is able to make it twice a week from his kitchen to his living room.
It's a little bit easier these days, yeah.
And we're going to try and get Matty on through some unorthodox internet connection on Thursday.
Yeah, you can phone it in.
Good idea.
He'll make it.
Good idea.
And thank you.
Also, I should have announced at the start as well. I'll be chatting with James Fox Higgins, 1 p.m. I'm pretty sure it'll be live. I hope it'll be live. Yeah, 1 p.m. on Friday. This Friday.
Because he's moved his daily James Fox Higgins show to 1 p.m. New South Wales time weekdays.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that it'll be live. So yeah, looking forward to chatting with him.
And he's having his Patriarch Hour show with Noah straight after Tuesday Uncuckables. I can't do what he does, like do one show and then go straight into another.
He's a machine, huh? I'm impressed. Yeah, I've actually I've been enjoying listening to his shows after our live streams. It's quite fun. Yeah.
Yeah, they're really interesting.
He was going through today that the possibility he was on some unverified ADL watch list, Anti-Defamation League.
James? No way. I don't believe it.
And he played footage from it was a documentary that was made about the ADL called Defamation in 2009, which films them at their office, and like all the like innocuous like complaints like they sort of go like fishing for like people to go after for anti-Semitism.
So they sound a little bit like the Australian Human Rights Commission, yeah?
Yeah, or maybe a organisation which puts out adverts complain about this cardinal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'll be back tomorrow night for Wilms Front. I've got as my guest John Macaulay, who he's been following Cardinal Pell's case since the beginning and has a unique insight that he knows the Cardinal personally and was also an altar boy at St. Patrick's Cathedral during the 1990s. So obviously has detailed knowledge of how those Sunday masses are conducted, which is how the case became unstuck in the end because Pell couldn't be in two places at once. So that should be an interesting show. And yeah, we'll be back again for Uncuckables Thursday and then Trad Tasman Talk Friday. You're still doing Melbourne Traditionalists.
Yeah, I haven't been doing them the last few weeks though. Mark Moncrief has just been doing them himself again because we don't want to sort of come in contact. So he's actually the last few Melbourne Traditionalists podcasts have been all him. they've actually, I reckon they've been his best three. He's done a discussion of the bombing of Germany. He's done a discussion of recessions and depressions. And the last one was on looking at revolutions and like looking at whether we're heading into a revolutionary period now. So he sums up the situation very well. I don't always agree with what he says, but he expresses his ideas very clearly and efficiently. So it's worth checking out.
We've got a super chat from Savnik for $50 US. Thank you very much. Have some shekels.
No, thank you very much.
USA.
And Binary Gender has said, don't miss the super chat on entropy. Nice work, Savnik. Yeah, I just read it out.
Bravo.
And Reg, everyone can catch you on Telegram.
Yep. Long enough, mate.
And of course, we're still publishing regular content on theunshackled.net and of course the XYZ.
Yep. I've been loving the lockdown, just giving me plenty of time to write.
Oh, same here as well. And as it's given me more time. I am writing a bit more, but I'm also doing all the back-ending stuff. Wilms Front Archive is on rationalrise.tv, James Fox-Higgins' video hosting website. I'm up to episode 41 of The Uncuckables, and then I've just got Trad Tasman Talk to go. So the full Unshackled Productions archive will be there soon.
Yeah, good. Good to hear.
All right, thank you everyone for your company tonight. We'll see you again on Thursday.
All right. See you guys.
Cheerio.
The Uncuckables.